The Just In Case Podcast with your hosts, Mike and Mike. Driven by passion, defined by quality.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Just In Case Podcast. I am your host, Mike, and this is
Mike.
We're happy to have everyone back, and we want a special thank you to our guest last episode. His name is Sam. Sam did great.
Thank you, Sam.
He has a wealth of knowledge in the industry, and like I said before, he can literally sweet talk his way out of anything. He's a great guy and has the gift of gab, very important in this industry. So thank you, Sam, for that, and we're looking forward to having him back on the show. I think we've basically decided that today we want to kind of discuss a little bit more of maybe some diagnostic tools and diagnostic, things that we've come across. And that's super important for some of these units because they're so complicating. And the computer systems in them are so advanced. Maybe we'll touch on that, Mike, if you want to start maybe talking about Mila, the MDU, and kind of get into that.
The MDU is a good tool. Unfortunately, I think you have to be an authorized servicer to use the MDU.
Yeah.
Which kind of stinks in a way because it is a good tool where it hooks right up to either a coffee maker, stove, oven, anything.
Yeah.
Refrigerators.
Tell them how it hooks up. Let's act like they don't have any idea what it is and how it works. And
so basically with the MDU it's a suction cup with an eye. And I think there's a yellow one and there's a clear
one. A white one, I think.
White.
Yellow and white.
And what it does is there is a spot on either the control panel that you're going to put the eye on, and then it hooks up to your computer with a software system that they use, and it basically will pull up the unit. You can run, diagnosis, run all the components, test all the components, check for error codes. You can also, if you need to do software updates, or if you're putting a board in and you have to update that board to work with that unit, you can use the MDU. It is a good tool to use. Sometimes it's a little finicky.
Yeah, I know.
Especially with refrigerators.
We haven't used it in probably a little over a year.
It's been a while.
So we don't do authorized factory service for Mila.
No.
It's just not in the cards for us right now. But when we did previously, I think the tool was it worked well, but it was a little finicky, the software. And I don't know if they've changed any of that up until this point. But, it had a lot of capability in there. And for some repairs, I believe you have to have it.
Now, you have to have it or else you can't program. Now they
have variant
boards.
Programming. And last I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but Mila is supposedly trying to switch to a one board type of component, so they can use that board across several different products, which I think sounds good. I'm not opposed to that, but where it gets a little tricky on the servicer side
people like us.
Yeah, like how are you going to get someone to program that or put the variant in there? I mean, a lot of the stuff that the MDU does in terms of tapping into the unit, you can do basic diagnostic through the control panel, but it's a little cumbersome to get into all that stuff. A pet peeve of mine used to be, specifically with Mila dishwashers, was they never set the pH level or the hardness level of the water. Which is very important for that type of dishwasher because now you have a salt container or component in there that will dispense it according to the hardness. Most people don't even know they have that in the dishwasher. But needless to say, the software would allow you to just put your MDU on there, get into the brains of the system. After you're done physically testing the water in the home, you could just put in what that level is, and it will calibrate that unit to basically dispense according to that hardness.
There's also, when I used to do it, there's a valve after a while. If you don't program the unit correctly to how hard the water is and all that, you can do it through customer settings too.
Yeah, you can.
Without the MDU, and you change, I think the higher the number, the harder the water, and there's a valve that makes a noise. I don't know if it's for the salt system. And it gets really loud. So if you go into that system and you change the water hardness, it will make that valve not be loud again.
Interesting.
It's very weird. Yeah, we get that a lot. I used to run into all the time.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of diagnostic tools, I think they have a very good and robust system if you have access to it. And we've talked about this before, where a lot of this stuff is so proprietary, you're not able to get your hands on it unless you're a factory servicer, or, which
hopefully that changes one day. We'll see.
I think eventually it may have to. I also think as the industry evolves and, they're trying to keep it under lock and key, and I understand that to an extent, but those tools really should be available for technicians.
Yeah, it should be.
It really should be.
And the whole thing with the yellow and the white lenses, I think the yellow one was a stronger MDU than the white one or something like that.
I'm pretty sure it had something to do with like different age units had a different thickness of plastic to get to that eye. So you had to change the color of the eye to penetrate the cover for that lens on the control panel, something along those lines. But I mean, I think 90% of the time it was like always the white one. Yeah,
the yellow one you would only use on
older units.
Yeah, like certain dishwasher or even the that refrigerator.
Yeah.
The master cools.
Yeah.
That one I would always have problems with. It would never want to connect.
Sometimes it's a little difficult to find the eye. I remember when we did Mila training, they told us take a flashlight and shine it on a control panel and you'll kind of find it.
Yeah.
And if not, you could always call Mila Tech Line. They will talk to anyone.
Yeah, they're good.
They're not, they don't keep that under lock and key. They want to be able to reach out to you and kind of help you out. So I'm curious to know what other guys in the industry are doing. Please reach out to us and let us know kind of where you stand with service and that lock and key type of situation with these programs and stuff. One thing that I really enjoy, and we used to lean on it quite frequently, was the LG technician portal. Anyone has access to it. I think even customers technically have access to it.
Yep.
But it really gives you they did a great job with this. In my opinion, they did a fantastic job with this. I don't know if that's because they had all the compressor issues or refrigeration issues, but they really honed in on step-by-step for technicians to find out what the underlying problems are. I mean, they give you breakdowns of pressures for refrigeration, where that restriction could be. I mean, this is stuff that obviously we've learned in the industry over the past whatever years, but especially for newer techs, or even if you're having a rough day and you can't remember, pull this up and it's just click, 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 and it tells you what the possibilities are. It's really great.
Yeah, it's crazy because with pressures, it will tell you if you have a restriction before the dryer, after the dryer. I mean, it goes into depth.
Yeah, that's what it does a very good job of doing that. And kudos to LG for that. It's just something that I think more manufacturers should do. Yeah, they took their time with it, and my gut tells me it's because they had issues with compressors and stuff, and they're just trying to make it easier for the homeowner to get taken care of at some point or another. But yeah, I love that. LG, especially when it comes to refrigeration, their main board houses their inverter. It's a big board. I mean, it does a lot of stuff, and in doing that, when we used to do compressor swap outs, you have to get a jig from LG, and occasionally that jig has software that should be updated regularly. And what it does is it just tells the board how to communicate with the new compressor properly. So we've gone behind other servicers who maybe they just didn't know that they needed to do that board update. And all we had to do was update the board, and this thing was back in business.
What is it that does change when you program that board? You're changing the speed of the compressor.
I don't know if it's necessarily the speed, but it may have something to do with how it ramps up and ramps down because it is variable speed. So, I know it has something to do with the software and basically how that board talks to that compressor. And it's pivotal because if you don't do that, you're going to have bigger problems.
Yeah. So I think, are they the only ones that run linear compressors? I don't know anyone else that does.
What's the other company that was using LG compressor? Was it Kenmore?
Yeah, they made them for Kenmore.
Kenmore uses. I mean, we pull Kenmores out. We see LG compressors. We also see issues with those compressors. So I mean, it's listen, LG knows about it, and there was a class action lawsuit. They're working on that, I guess. And as servicers, we don't get involved with that end of it. And I always tell a customer that, like, hey, we didn't manufacture the product, we can fix it for you or whatever. And LG, I think at the end of the day, they do want to get their customer taken care of, because we call and advocate on customers' behalf when it comes to that. And
it's easier.
They send us the part, no charge, and then the customer is responsible for labor or whatever it is, and we always get it to work out for them. So they have a pretty good system in terms of that when getting it taken care of. But like their diagnostics in general, I think they did a good job with teaching people how to properly diagnose and really use the full capability of the boards on these units.
Yeah, I mean, we had training when we worked with our other company, and they came out and they definitely taught us a lot when it comes to using the
lock ring.
Yeah, the lock ring too. That was a whole other thing.
Yeah, they were big into lock ring. They pushed lock ring very hard.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because of the simplicity of you're doing the compressor quickly. There's a lot of compressors out there that are faulty.
Because they're going to, what is it? Not silver. What is it? Copper to silver? No.
It's silver.
Is it silver?
Silver.
Yeah. So I guess the lock, to me, the lock, stainless maybe.
Stainless. Copper to stainless.
Yeah. The lock ring, I find it easier for me, because when it comes to that, I'm not the best when it comes to soldering that. Yeah. I still have to get used to that. Yeah. For me, the lock ring takes 2 seconds and it's done.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they push that too. It's easier.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and I also think there's just so much out there.
Yeah.
And I think if you're an LG servicer, I believe they cover the lock ring. Actually, it's part of, they'll pay for the lock ring basically. Yeah. It's part of like that warranty call. Yeah. Obviously we don't do LG warranty work, but we do, if it's covered parts and the customer does labor, we'll do that job for them. So
yeah.
But yeah, so kudos to LG on that. I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah, it definitely comes in handy.
Yeah. Some units, I mean, Mike was just at a Blue Star. We kind of want to talk about that a little.
That one, yeah.
If you want to get into that and just kind of tell them what you did, what was going on and what you did. And
So I went there, customer, it was coming up with an error code. Well, not an error code, actually said,
what
call
was it,
service. It was a Blue Star refrigerator.
Okay.
And I had a service code, saying call for service. So I reached out to Blue Star, and he walked me into how to get into diagnostic. And it goes through every single component when you get into it, and it will show you if it's good. On this particular unit, it had a shorted evap thermistor in the freezer. So when it went to the evap thermistor, it showed that it was shorted, and it showed the value, like it was really high resistance, or I think it was really high. It was like 6,000 or something like that. So right away, it just showed it was shorted. So we replaced that, and then it fixed it. But it was really cool because it goes through each thing: compressor, lights, fans, and it'll tell you pass. And you could see the values, what it should be reading and everything. I think it's a great thing. It's easy to use. You go right into it, and it shows you right then and there as soon as you went into it.
That is cool. That's very cool. And shout out to Blue Star for that.
Yeah, because all through the display unit. It's
I'm not
really
sure if
easy.
they even manufacture their own refrigerators. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't know who
sure,
does.
Because listen, like a lot of these companies out there, they have other companies manufacturing their refrigeration.
Like a lot of manufacturers.
LeBaire is known for that. LeBaire makes refrigeration for a whole bunch of people. And in that kind of same, keep it on that same path. We are a True authorized servicer.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to True. True does a great job. They have a fantastic team. We would love to get someone from True on the show one day if you're listening.
Please give us a call. Let us know.
We find that when we call their tech line, I mean, these guys are super knowledgeable.
Yeah, they want to help you.
And they do want to help you. We had the privilege of being True trained, by the factory, and they did a great training. And actually, when we took the training initially, it was right when R600 started rolling out.
Yes.
So they were really pushing the whole combustible Freon.
Yeah, you got to take a safety
training,
class,
take a safety course, and all that stuff. And now it's a little bit more mainstream than it originally was. Yeah. But I remember the hesitation in True when it first came out, and they were like, "Listen, just be careful with this stuff. It's flammable." And but yeah, now some of their newer units. you can actually go into diagnostic and it will tell you the pressures.
Yeah.
There's
low
a
suction or high suction. Yeah.
There's
that's
a
right.
valve in there that is reading pressures. And I mean, technically, you don't really even have to tap this unit to find out what's going on.
I think he told me it was below 50 or 5. I'm trying to remember, but if it sees it's below either 50 PSI or something like that, it's going to kick the low suction error code or something like that.
Is that that's when it's off?
No, while it's running. If it sees it and it's below, no, it's got to be 5 PSI.
Yeah, that's what I'm
not
saying.
50.
Yeah, because otherwise.
So when it's on 5 and it's running, it will kick that error code and it'll show low suction and it lets it know there's a leak. There's actually 2 of them. There's one on the high side.
Yeah.
There's one on the low side. I forgot what they actually call those.
It's slipping my mind right now.
Yeah, I just talked to him about it the other day, actually, because I had an outside ice maker with that issue, and it was coming up with that brand new, but it's like a transducer, I believe, or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes.
I think that's it.
There's 2 of them on there.
Yeah, we had one not long ago.
Yes, you worked on it in the back.
But I think it was the transducer was bad from the factory, right? Is that what happened?
Yours was leaking, actually.
It was leaking
Yes.
from the fact they had an issue. I think True had an issue with a couple of those units came out and they were leaking. And but I mean, listen, this is some of the newer technology that's coming out that's really going to assist us in the technical realm.
100%.
And whether these manufacturers know it or not, I think they're starting to realize how important it is to access some of this info right from the control panel, because you don't always want to be sending a servicer out there that has to take this unit apart or tap it, or it's just not a good look either. Just on a caveat, some of the stuff that we personally do in our business, when it comes to some of these under-counter units, we like to remove them back to our shop.
Yeah, it's easier.
It's easier to work on, and it's just a cleaner environment. And some customers are hesitant. They don't want you to take the unit, whatever. But
we don't get that pushback.
We don't get that much pushback. Once in a blue, we get that. It's a rarity. Maybe around a holiday, or they don't want the empty space in their cabinet during a party. Stuff like that. We have run across that type of stuff, but it's just so much better in our shop in a controlled environment with the proper lighting, the proper tools. We can put it up on a bench. We're not hunched over doing it.
And we can monitor it for a while instead of,
And
you're at a house, forget it.
That's my biggest thing.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is now we fix this unit and we can literally monitor this thing for 36 hours and make sure it's cranking ice out, it's meeting temperature. We can leave the door open, make sure the alarms go off. Like we can do
everything,
all that stuff, as opposed to building it in someone's house, slap it together, check the evap temp, and now you're gone. And it's a call back 2 days later.
Exactly.
So I much rather nip it in the butt before we get to that. Shout out to True anyway. True, we'd love to have you on. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow, please. Yes. We have a good relationship with some of these companies, and we're proud of that. We've worked hard for that. And they might not even know really who we are, but we do so much business with them, and they're a pleasure to do work with. Especially
they're always good, man. We get our parts from them really fast.
Next day parts, and at the end of the day, they really do. Speaking on True specifically, they want to take care of their customer.
Yeah, they do.
They tell us that on the phone. Whatever it takes to get we're going to pay for it. Just get the customer taken care of.
Whether it's install, anything. If you can do it while you're there, they're fine with that.
They are very good like that. Another brand we do a lot of is Perlick.
Yes, Perlick.
So let me just kind of trace back a little bit in terms of True and Perlick. True and Perlick were primarily in the commercial space. They branched out. I'm not even sure. Maybe five years ago or 10 years ago into residential side, which is where we kind of pick up. And they're great products, I think. I always joke around about the weight of a Perlick unit. I mean,
compared to a True,
not even compared to a True, compared to anything. I mean, they're a rock solid unit. They're heavy. Like to do a swap out, it's a 2-man job. It's a heavy unit. They didn't cheap out on making it at all. Neither did True either, to be quite honest. True did a great job with that also. But Perlick, I mean, we don't come across that many Perlick related issues, and occasionally if we do, it's a rebuild here and there. Simple stuff. I mean, obviously we're seeing a lot of undercounters, with Perlick. True has column units now. We see that occasionally. But Perlick, I mean, in terms of their diagnostic, I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's anything specific we should bring up with them.
Perlick, the biggest thing I see is those control units, the head units.
Right.
they use them on many different units. You know, I think wine, refrigerators. So you have to make sure a lot of times you'll get a complaint where the back wall's icing up, or this and that. So really, you have to program that head unit to make sure it goes into a defrost long enough, or change all the parameters for that unit, because I think they come set as
beverage centers,
something like that. Yeah. So
and you have to reset it for wine or whatever it is. And part of the reason behind that is they don't want it to go into defrost more frequently when it's wine, because then it gets too warm in the cabinet. I will say I wish it was not as cumbersome to make those changes on that control panel. I wish there was an easy way of doing that. Perlick, if you're listening, please try to help us out. We do call Techline to switch those, and basically every time it fixes the problem. So, you know, if you're a customer and you're listening to this podcast, just so you know, if you have a Perlick unit and you see the back wall freezing up, you can call Perlick or call us, and we can come out there and rectify it. It's basically a reprogramming issue. Yeah,
reprogram it, and then just leave the door open for 48 hours, let all the ice defrost that's in the evap,
and then
put a towel on the floor, and that's it.
Yeah, fire it back up, and it should be good to go. We've done that a lot, and obviously with the guidance of True Techline, which is also fantastic. I will say the other complaint we've gotten about Perlick is the rattling of their compressors. They have they use a pancake compressor. It's small and it tends to rattle. It's a little noisy. Freon. Perlick knows about that, and it's not much you can do, to be honest. No. I mean, we've had it to the point where Perlick gave us guidance on swapping out the compressor, and it was still the same issue.
It's just the way it's made.
It's just the way it is. So servicers and homeowners, if you're listening, it's a common thing. I wouldn't say it's a problem. I don't consider it a problem.
No, it's
not just something you're not used to.
Yes.
You know, it's just a little louder than normal.
It's a weird sound. What they've told me, actually, I had one, and it seems like it makes more of a sound after a defrost or when it kicks back on. So
it's at the highest probably level. It's ramped all the way up.
So if you want to change, supposedly at the time that it does that, you have to shut the unit off and then maybe leave it off for a few hours and turn it back on. And like, say if every night at 1 o'clock this thing's vibrating, you could change. I've done that because the customer had one in her room. So at night, it would always make that noise and wake her up. So what we did is we just turned it off for like 4 hours. They turned it back on, and it changed it so that when it went into a defrost, it was more maybe 11 in the afternoon instead of 12 at night.
Oh, all right. That makes sense.
And actually, I went back to the house and asked him whatever happened. He's like, nah, you fixed it. I'm like, all right, that's great.
Yeah, it's because they're not hearing it. Yeah, because they're not in their room. They're working or whatever at that time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a loud thing where it's going to be like, but if you're in your room at 12 o'clock at night and sleep and you hear this thing, it's going to be loud to you.
Right, exactly. So. Especially if you're not used to it. Like I like to, when I'm sleeping, I don't really like sound and light and all that. So, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I want to talk about Smart HQ. Seems like a very cool tool to me. I do not know much about it, but I want to see what other people, other servicers out there, what their thoughts are on it. Yeah. It's a GE Appliance Smart HQ device that servicers can buy. I want to say it's $500 or so, and it will allow you to attach a device to the unit, and then you can Bluetooth your phone to that device, and it will give you all the diagnostics you need. So please feel free to chime in. Let us know what your thoughts are on that. I don't know much about it, and we've been talking about potentially purchasing
the next thing we get
to see how it works.
Now, do you have to be authorized to use that or not?
That's a great question. I don't think you do.
Yeah.
I don't think you do, because I think that's why the price point's so high on this device.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to poke around and do a little research. If anyone knows, please let us know.
Let us know.
I'm trying to find out. I've even tried to call GE and the manufacturer of the actual device itself, and I'm not getting any answers as to, do you need to be an authorized servicer? I know you have to have an account set up, which we have a GE account set up. If you had to be
authorized servicer, they wouldn't be selling it to the public. Well, to us.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they would be the ones selling it only.
I want to believe that, but before we make that investment, I would love to know the real answer about that. Yeah. So I also want to touch on and kind of get everyone's opinion about Techline. Listen, don't be afraid to call Techline, please.
They're your best friends.
They work on one product.
Yep.
we work on 30.
Yeah.
It's impossible to remember every way of getting into diagnostic mode. It's impossible to get, to remember all the certain criteria and features you can enable and disable on a unit.
Yeah.
And I know it's a little intimidating sometimes when a customer's like, well, you don't know this information. Like, and I tell people, listen, I'm honest. I tell people with all due respect, I work on 30 different units, and it's
not easy.
It's almost impossible to remember every single way of getting into every single unit. You can't know it,
No, it's hard.
It's just not something that
all the error codes. It's not.
Yeah, that's another thing. People call the office like, I'm getting an E53 error code, and sometimes we're like, we have to look it up because we don't remember an E53 what it is exactly. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't even know if that's a real error code, but it's.
There's so many different error codes. There's so many different.
Lean on the tech lines that will talk to you. Become authorized services if you can. Yeah. It's easier, but make sure it fits your business model. I've talked about that already in the past.
It's got to be right for you.
It has to be a right fit for you, and it's not always going to be a right fit for you.
No.
So it's okay to say no. And we've said no. We've said no to some services that I've gone back and forth with and negotiated terms, and at the end of the day, it didn't work out, and I'm okay with that, and hopefully they are too. I don't really know, but everyone thinks they have the best product, but if that was the case, then there wouldn't be service. So
no, we wouldn't have a job.
Right. So we're important. I always say too, without them, there's no us. Without us, there's no them.
Exactly.
Right? Because they're going to put out product, and of course, there's going to be issues. It's a natural thing. They're cranking out millions of products, so we go and fix it. That's what we do.
And as a manufacturer, you want to have a good service company to back up their product. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're buying that unit, but you're also buying service at the end of the day. So you got to be, a good service. You got to communicate with your customers and the manufacturer at the end of the day.
Yeah. Before customers out there, take a look at the warranties that some of these guys offer.
Make sure you register your unit.
And register your unit. Yeah, exactly. That's a huge thing. So, it's just do your due diligence as a servicer. Do your due diligence and see what your options are, and try to have the answers to the best of your ability. Yeah. I mean, listen, we do business with some companies that they don't even require an authorization. Yeah. If the customer calls me direct, as long as that unit's under warranty, which we have to find that out first. We can't always take the customer's word. No. We just go out there and do the job. And it's that simple. And you know what? I think it makes it so easy that the customer, it's not a nuisance to the customer. No. It's just like, okay, make an appointment, come out. Yep. Some manufacturers, you have to tell the customer, listen, please call the manufacturer. Then they send you a dispatch, and it's a couple more hoops to jump through. But, at the end of the day, I think these people, the manufacturer wants to get the customer taken care of.
No, yeah, they do 100% want to get
most of them. Most of them.
And also, a lot of people don't know this, but when you purchase a unit, warranty, some of them don't start to, if you have proof of install, right, that's when it starts. Some of them, I don't think there's a lot out there that start when you buy it, but if you show them proof of purchase, they will start the warranty from that date. So don't think that you bought it a year ago.
Proof of purchase or install?
Proof of install. Right. Don't think if you bought it, because a lot of people, when they buy units, they buy them ahead of time, right, because they're building a house. Exactly. And literally they install it a year later. But if you call them, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say, oh, yeah, it's good. We can start the warranty.
I know this became a big thing during COVID because there was such a backlog of appliances.
Yes. And they couldn't keep them there, so you had to take delivery.
Exactly. So if you ordered it and it came in, they were like, we have to get this out of our warehouse because we don't have the space for it.
We don't have the room.
Just take it. And then it was sitting in customers' homes or garages for 18 months, 24 months. And basically at that point, some of their warranty already is out the window. So I used to tell people, get a letter from your contractor and have the contractor say, on this date, this unit was installed. And that's, given every manufacturer is different. But if the manufacturer allows your warranty date to start from that point, then get a letter. Either way, I feel like you should have that letter. Yeah, you should. Because what happens if that guy goes out of business, that contractor later on? Now you have no way of getting it. So if he installs that unit for you or he purchased it on your behalf or whatever it is, just get a letter from him stating, on this date, this unit was installed, at this address to this homeowner, whatever. Now you have it in your records in case you ever need it, really, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have.
Any other diagnostic kind of stuff we want to dive into?
I've seen a couple other things, but I haven't really used it. I know a lot of manufacturers. Samsung makes their own little tool too.
Yeah.
I think it's Care something. I forgot.
Care Plus or something like
and,
that. I don't know if you have to be authorized to do that either. Like, if you guys know, reach out to us. Let us know, please.
Also, Daycor, same thing. They have their own diagnostic tool,
which is owned by Samsung, FYI.
Yep.
Some people don't know that. It's basically a higher end Samsung.
They bought them out a while ago and started building for them.
One thing with Daycor I find is that their parts are not readily available for a long period of time.
Yeah, I know.
10 years, parts unavailable. And it's a point of contention with customers. We see it. They're like, this thing's only 10 years old. I don't know why. We don't, we have no control over that, but we have run into that a decent amount.
Some manufacturers, after a certain amount of years, they just, I guess, stop making parts.
What's Sub-Zero, 20 years?
It could be, because I still see parts for units that are 30 years old.
Right.
So, I guess every manufacturer is different when it comes to that. But it's crazy. Some of these units you still see going, they still got parts.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing, because then we can service it and the customer doesn't have to go out and buy a whole new unit. And so I like that side of it.
Me, I look at it as, I feel like it's so much easier to fix it than to have to
especially
replace it. You know what I mean?
A unit
go
of
through all that
caliber. I mean, that's not a 1, 2, 3 job.
No.
You're not pulling out a French door fridge and slapping a new one in. It's a lot involved.
Yes.
And we always tell customers too, weigh your options with that. Like, to rebuild it might be a couple $1,000s, but now it's a little cheaper than it's a lot cheaper than buying a new one. But now you have to pay an installer to reinstall it. You have to get your
if you got panels, everything.
Your panels have to be adjusted or changed or whatever. And so these are all things to keep keep in mind, and
especially if you're in the market of having one fixed or buying a new one. Always weigh your options.
Yeah, definitely. And that being said, that's kind of where we're at. I think I'm happy we were able to kind of touch on this stuff a little bit. It's super important. Diagnostic is such a major part of our job, and kudos to the manufacturers that make it a little easier for us. And
yes, definitely.
We'd love to talk about it more. So feel free to reach out to us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, guys. Thank you.
We will definitely be seeing you guys on the next one.
See you later.
Thank you for watching the Just In Case podcast. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.